If you are 55 to 70 and you've saved at least $1 million, then this video is for you. We're going to talk about a lot of the concerns we see with the people we work with, and also a lot of the strategies that we're looking to implement to make sure that we can take advantage of these concerns and make sure that they are not concerns anymore for that retirement that you've worked so hard for. And this crowd, we call them the Midwestern Millionaire. This is actually a book that I'm writing that will be out here soon. And this book's about those who have been a diligent saver, those who have been hardworking, those who have been frugal all their life. We typically say that these people are the best savers but the worst spenders. And you don't have to be from the Midwest to have Midwestern values. We've got clients all across the country who still resonate as that Midwestern millionaire because of the values standpoint and because of who they are and because what they've done over the last 40 years to get to where they've been. They've done everything the right way to get to where they need to be here today. We even have some clients who call it the middle class millionaire, which may be a clearer picture of what we're talking about with this type of person. So if you feel like that describes you, you're going to love this video, you're going to love this channel, and I would recommend you go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that you can get more of this content coming to you and reminders for all the videos that we do.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
If you haven't watched our channel yet, my name is Joe Schmitz. I'm the CEO and founder of Peak Retirement Planning. We're a retirement planning firm based in Columbus, Ohio, but we serve clients all across the country. We have a lot of people who watch these YouTube videos who end up scheduling a time with us, and some of them even become clients of ours. And so we love doing this channel to give educational content out there for that Midwestern millionaire that we've been talking about, but also it's a great opportunity for us to meet people who are a good fit to work with us. And if you are interested in exploring more of who we are and what we can do, you can schedule a 15-minute call to see if we can be able to serve you moving forward. And so just know that that's an opportunity in the link below if there's anything that we can do here to help you. If you've been an avid viewer of here and you're looking for this type of help, we'd certainly love to have that conversation there with you. So let's get started with the content of the video here today. So as we've talked about with that Midwestern millionaire, the things they need with their retirement are different. They have to be more advanced. They're no longer in the accumulation phase. They're no longer climbing the mountain. It's now time to come down, and it's now time for different strategies to put in place. And so we've done another video called the generalist versus specialist. And if you are looking for a team to serve you on this, we'd ultimately recommend you work with a specialist who focuses on retirement planning, but also understands how to do planning for those with $1 million or more, because it's a lot more complex. And typically you're going to want to make sure you're working with a team that has a certified financial planner designation. That's the gold star of our industry that says, hey, everything in this ballpark, we've done the study and we've done the work to do that. Unfortunately, only 30% of advisors even have the CFP. And so just make sure you're working with the right team there, but then also make sure that not only do they have the CFP, but are they doing full comprehensive planning? Are they doing planning in what we call our 5 pillars, where they're looking at everything, especially with a tax focus? There's many advisors out there that only do investment planning. So this is something you want to make sure that, hey, do they really have the setup to be able to do everything? Do they have the CPA in office to do the tax prep along with the tax planning for you to make the right decisions? Do they have the estate planning attorney there to make sure all the documents are drafted the right way and ensure you get exactly what you're looking for? And so all of those are going to be extremely important when you're looking for a team to help you in this type of situation. And one of the biggest things that we see that this person is worried about is required minimum distributions. And that's one of the first things we'll talk about here today. And the reason why this is such a concern, because again, the more you've saved, the bigger concerns the required minimum distribution is. So obviously when you turn 73 or 75, depending on when you were born, the government is going to start to force you to take out money from these tax deferred investments. And so what we see with a lot of people who come and work with us, the majority of their assets are in tax deferred. There's only less than 25% of people who even have a Roth IRA or tax-free vehicles. And there's so much more in tax deferred than tax-free out there in our country. And so because of that, they now have a big concern of, hey, all of this money is going to be taxable when we take that out for income, and the government's going to force us to do that, which means we have no control over the amount of taxes we're going to pay, because not only do we not know what the tax rate is going to be written in the future, the tax code is written in pencil. I write about that in my book called I Hate Taxes. And so we have to make sure that we're planning for, we don't know what tax rates are going to be, but also we're going to have not only those huge RMD we have to worry about, but also Social Security on top of that. And for many of the viewers of this YouTube channel, probably a pension on top of that as well, which means our income in the future may be higher than it is while we were working, which is going to lead to big tax problems down the line. And with this required minimum distribution that we're talking about, typically this is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as things go, and that's why this is a big concern. It starts off at about 4% that you're required to take out at 73 or 75, but then by the time you're 90, that percentage is going to go up year after year, and by the time you're 90, it could be 8-9% throughout those 90s, where now you're not only have to take out a higher withdrawal rate, but also your investment should be growing over time at higher than a rate than what you're pulling out, which is meaning that you're going to have to take out more and more and more. And what we see is that people's RMD at 73, well, later in retirement, it could be almost double or even more, depending on the growth rate of that investment. And so this is why this is a big concern with many of the people we work with. And remember, if you don't have $1 million or more, especially if you don't have $1 million or more in tax deferred, this may be less of a concern for you. And we always use a rule of thumb where, hey, if you have $250,000 or less, you may not even have to worry about required minimum distributions because you're never going to have a huge tax burden there. But if you have $250,000 to $1 million, that's when we say, hey, you may want to start paying attention to it, because now you're going to start to creep up to those higher tax brackets. Now you're going to start to force Social Security maybe to become taxable. Now you're going to start to force maybe Medicare premiums to be taxable if you have a pension. There's all these other things that play into the conversation at that point. But when you have $1 million or more saved up, that's when it's almost a non-negotiable, in our opinion, to start planning for this. Not all of our clients with $1 million do, planning for the RMD at this point, but I would tell you that the majority of our clients are, that have $1 million or more. It's important because your RMD is going to be about $40,000 a year, and it's only going to increase. And if you're 60 with $1 million, by the time you even get to 75, you're probably going to have double the amount there at least, and so you're going to have $2 million. Now your RMD is going to be $80,000, and that's where we see the concerns lie. And so obviously this video is for those who are 55 to 70. So as I just mentioned, the younger you are, the more you have, the bigger problem this gets. If you're 70 with $1 million, again, still a big concern, but hey, you're not going to be expecting this to double by the time you turn 73 to do your required minimum distribution. And we'll talk about some strategies throughout the video that we can do to reduce our RMD. One of the big ones is a Roth conversion that we're seeing a lot of people take advantage of, so we'll discuss that later on in the video. But another strategy that many people are considering is a qualified charitable distribution. And this is where you're going to give money from your IRA to a charity in retirement. So if you're charitable minded, this is a great strategy, and you can actually start doing this at 70 and a half. And so even though RMD is 73, for example, you can start doing this earlier, which again reduces that RMD in the future because you're starting to take money out of this IRA. And so we also see that advantage for people who, hey, they may want to spend money from their IRA before they're 73. And just like a Roth conversion or an IRA distribution in this case, that's going to lower those future RMDs. And so, we see some people where, hey, maybe they delay Social Security till 70, and then they live off of their IRAs until 70, brings down the IRA total, raises the amount they're going to get at Social Security at 70 and for life, and then that could be a way to definitely do some planning as well, so that when they get to 73, they're not required to take out as much. It's not going to bump them up as income brackets as much. So all of those are considerations to be aware of. Before that qualified charitable distribution, if you do plan to do that, you want to start planning for that now, and you want to build that into your recommendation. So with our clients, something that we do when we build a tax plan for them is we're looking at, hey, what do we need to get that RMD down to in the future in order to not be in the highest tax brackets, in order to not have to worry about more in Medicare premiums, in order to avoid the Social Security tax torpedo. And so knowing that we're going to plan to give $10,000 to a charity is going to allow us to better choose decisions of what we want to do from the tax plan. For example, if you're going to give $20,000 a year away, well, that may mean that we don't have to do as aggressive Roth conversions, or we may, for the other strategies that I mentioned, we may not have to do them as aggressively, and we may be able to do them smarter and not have to bump up tax brackets in order to get some of this tax planning done. So again, it's just key to understand that you always want to think ahead when you're doing tax planning for folks who have $1 million or more, 55 to 70, because you got to think about RMDs in the future first and foremost, but all of the other factors that play a part here. And one of those other factors that I really want to discuss here today is Medicare premiums. And so with Medicare premiums, this is something that those with $1 million or more, 55 to 70, may not be as concerned about, right now, for example, if you're 55, but if you're 63, so for the later part of the people watching this video, 63 to 70, this is when you really have to start paying attention to it. Although I'll argue that 63 to 55 need to start paying attention to this now to get ahead of it because of the concepts that I just brought up, right? If we can do planning from 55 to 63, that may lead us to a position at 63 to not have to worry about Medicare premiums increasing. And so that's what we're here to talk about right now. And because when you look at Medicare premiums, it's based off your income. Again, those with $1 million or less, they may never have to worry about this. They may always be in the lower Medicare tiers. They don't have to worry about Medicare planning unless there's significant changes to the system moving forward, which could happen considering it's in trouble and that they have increased the premiums of Medicare by about 7% historically, and they're projecting it to be about the same moving forward. And so based on all of that, yes, changes can be made that a lot more people are impacted by this. And for you all, you may be impacted more because, as they always say, tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. Well, I hate to break it to you right now, but you are considered rich with the amount of assets that you have. And if you have a pension, Social Security, RMDs, your income is going to consider you rich. And you may not consider yourself rich because you're that Midwestern millionaire, but from a taxing standpoint, they're going to be targeting you. Higher assets, higher income is something they're always after, and that's something you've heard talked about many, many times over the past. And so if that's you, again, you just have to start planning, because if you have $1 million or more of net worth, you're in around the top 10% in the entire country in net worth. And then if you have about 2 million, 2.5 million or more, you're in the top 5%. So you can see how this crowd can get targeted very easily, because that's where the revenue is. They're not going to go after the people who are only living on Social Security and have no investments and are not working. There's nothing to get from that crowd. There's not enough revenue. They're coming after the money where they can get it, which is obviously makes sense, and that's why we need to plan ahead of that if we want to pay our fair share in taxes, but not $1 more. And I also talk about that in the book, I Hate Taxes. It's really what it's all about, is how do we pay our fair share and not tip Uncle Sam, right? I'll pay my fair share, but I don't want to tip Uncle Sam because I don't feel like they're the best steward of all of my tax-paying dollars. I feel like there's some great things they do, but I don't want to overpay. And I always ask this question to people of, hey, has anyone here ever donated money to the IRS above and beyond their tax bill? And I've never heard anyone say yes. So if that's you, put in the comments below that is you. If not, maybe share in the comments why you don't feel like you want to pay your fair share. How would you, add to what my thoughts are here of what your opinion is. I'd love to read that. We try to read the comments, all of them. We try to reply to as many of them as we can. So feel free to let us know your thoughts down there. And so with those Medicare premiums, again, they're based on your income. So if you're going to expect a higher RMD, you're going to expect a higher Social Security, maybe a pension, you're going to force yourself into these higher tiers where you can pay thousands of dollars more per spouse for Medicare, but you get the same coverage. And so again, we can get ahead of this through smart tax planning so that we can force our incomes to be lower in the future versus higher. And that's kind of the key here. Again, we never want to pay a tax at a higher rate than what we'll expect to pay it in the future. But again, a lot of the people we're working with in this crowd, they're typically in a higher tax situation or the same as while they're working. And if we expect taxes to be higher at that point down the road with how much debt we're in, and considering that we're among low historical tax rate environment right now, then that's something we may want to look to get ahead of and start to do some strategies now to plan for that. And again, why is it 63 is the key age for Medicare? Is because there's a 2-year look back. So when you're 65, when it goes time to get your Part A and Part B Medicare, your Part B will be at an additional cost based on your income in 63. So if you sold your business or you retired in 63 and you had a higher income, be prepared that you may have to pay more at 65. Now at 66, that may drop off if that was just a one-time event, but something to be aware of. And there is a form out there that you can fill out. We do it with a lot of our clients, and so far we have a 100% success rate. Not to say that would be the case for you, but for our clients, we've always gotten it through. And it's something you can get a one-time exception for a life event to lower your income for that Medicare calculation when you go to take that. So something that can save you thousands of dollars again just by filling that out. And again, another thing that this crowd needs to understand, we just mentioned it briefly, but is Social Security planning. We just talked about taking it, maybe wait until 70. Again, that's not a recommendation. We have clients that take it at any age. There's a lot of factors that go into that calculation. A lot of it's your health, right? Are you going to live a long time or are you not? Or what's the spousal benefits? What's the age difference in the spouses, right? All of those are going to help us make that decision there. So, but that's just an idea there, because you do want to watch out for that Social Security tax torpedo. And we start seeing people with that $1 million or more where they start forcing themselves either into that having Social Security taxable or having Social Security what's called fully taxable, which is 85% of it becoming taxable as income. And so as you're aware with Social Security, the lower your income, the less you pay in taxes. The higher income, the more of it's taxable. And so again, we can do some smart planning ahead of time to reduce our income to find ourselves having less of Social Security taxable. And Social Security is counted on something called the provisional income. We've done some other videos on how all of this works together. But again, you just want to do a really thorough analysis, no matter what age you are, whether you're on Social Security or not, of how that's going to impact you in the future. So again, you can get ahead of it. I think that's the theme of this video, is how do we get ahead of the planning to ensure that we can be in the best place moving forward. And at the end of the day, I'd rather have more of my Social Security in my pocket versus giving more of it to Uncle Sam. And that's the value of Social Security planning, is you get to keep more of what you've worked hard for all these years. And again, that's another theme of the video here today. Another concern for this crowd, 55 to 70, $1 million or more, is when it comes to legacy planning. We have people come to us who, one of their biggest concerns is making sure their spouse is taken care of if something were to happen to them. They may know a lot of the stuff. A lot of the people who watch these YouTube videos are pretty sharp. They know their stuff. They've done pretty well over the years. They know that they can take it another step by getting professional help, but they also understand that if something happens to them, their spouse may not be able to deliver on the level of expertise that they may have, and that's one of the values of why they're looking to get a team. And so if that's you, that may be something you want to look to do if you're doing this on your own right now, is working with a team, or maybe you're working with an advisor who you may not enjoy the type of work they're doing. You may not feel they're doing the best work for you. Well, maybe now is the time to look at getting something different while you can make the decision for your spouse versus having your spouse make that decision or having them stuck with the current advisor. And if your current advisor is doing all the right things, then great. Then this should give you confidence and confirmation that, hey, you're in the right spot, you're doing the right things, and that's ultimately what you need to be doing. So that's great news there if that's you. And so that's one of the concerns here. But the other concern is wealth transfer. Obviously, we see that, both spouses are going to pass away at some point, and that wealth, and again, if you have $1 million or more, there's probably going to be some leftover money, especially if you're a Midwestern millionaire and have a hard time spending your money, like many of our clients. By the way, we try to force our clients to spend money. I don't want to say force, that sounds terrible. We try to encourage it, because at the end of the day, some of them may not want to spend money no matter what, and that's completely fine, because now that just means they're going to leave a better legacy, and we're all about purpose and whatever that client's purpose is. But we do want our clients to understand, again, Midwestern Millionaires are the best savers but the worst spenders. So we have a lot of tools and conversations in place that we go through with our clients throughout our relationship to show them, hey, if you spend this money, it's not going to affect your goals. Hey, if you want to go on that vacation, you're still going to end up with X amount of dollars at the end of time. And if you don't go on that vacation, you're going to leave your kids or your charity or this much money. Is that what we truly want to do? And if so, great. That's a good decision. If not, well, what are our true motives here that you're trying to achieve? And I think purpose is the biggest thing of why we do this. It's great and fun to come up with all these strategies and save all this money, but what's it worth? And something we tell our clients is, hey, we just saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes through our tax planning. What are you going to do with it? And it makes it a lot more fun and enjoyable to see the pictures and see the enjoyment they have when they come into the meetings and sharing about their experience that they just shared, that they've been planning for all these years, and finally now it's time to go achieve it. So we always get joy from it, and I'm sure they obviously get just as much joy, if not hopefully more than we get. And so on that wealth transfer to the next generation, we see that can be a gap for many people because their advisors may be older, they're getting ready to retire, maybe the children are working with different advisors, which all of it can be done. That's not necessarily an issue, but a lot of our clients have found value working with us, where we work with the family to ensure that that wealth transfer just easily passes on, not only to make it easy, but also to make sure it's lived on with the purpose that they accumulated it with, right? You've worked hard for this money all your life. Most inheritances, when they get passed on, just get spent. This is something where we can really instill habits and values, and family members have conversation with family members to say, hey, here's what we hope is done with this money. And so that's something that I think with this crowd, you got to start thinking ahead of. There is going to be a legacy there for most people in this crowd, and how are we going to plan for it? And then obviously, let's go back to that spouse. There's something called the widow's penalty that gets really severe for this crowd. And so you really want to make sure you're paying attention to the widow's penalty, because Once that one spouse passes, no matter which one it is, now you're going to have to pay nearly double the amount of taxes because it's going to go from married filing jointly to single. But also one of those Social Securities are going to drop off. And if you have a pension, it's going to depend on if you have a survivor option on that or not. And so you can see that the income is going to significantly drop for that spouse, and their taxes are going to rise as well. And so we need to make sure, again, we're getting ahead of that and planning now so that when that happens, or if that happens, then we can be ahead of it. And so with all of this, I do want to share one strategy that we talk about quite a bit on this channel that is one of the most popular tax planning strategies today. And we mentioned it earlier, but this is a Roth conversion. And it's simply where you move that money from the tax deferred that we've been talking about, there's traditional IRAs, those 401ks, over to the Roth. And again, this is a lot more complex of a strategy than what I'm making it sound. But doing this type of strategy where you pay the taxes now allows you to now have that money in a Roth where not only does it grow tax-free, but now when you take out money from the Roth in the future, there are no taxes. So what does this achieve? Well, it achieves the RMDs. It allows us to lower those RMDs, right? If we have $1 million and over time, let's say we convert half of it. Well, now that that $500,000, 4%, RMD is only $20,000 versus what could have been $40,000. So again, it's going to reduce tax issues, complications down the line in the future. Again, Social Security tax could be more, Medicare premiums could be more. Doing Roth conversions now could help achieve all those things. Lead you to paying less in Medicare, allowing your Social Security to be more tax-free, allow for the widow's penalty to be less impacted so your spouse can take from tax-free versus tax-deferred, allow the wealth transfer to your children to be more efficient, right? Because now they can take the Roth out over 10 years versus the IRA out over 10 years. There is no tax impact if they do the Roth. They don't have to pay taxes on it. And so that's where it can become advantageous in the right situation. So again, our biggest hope for you with that type of strategy is just explore it. If you haven't looked at it yet, this is a huge opportunity. If you have looked at it, make sure you have a specific plan in place of how you're going to do it. A lot of people watching this video come to us and say, hey, I've tried to do Roth conversions on my own. I just feel like I'm guessing. I don't have the software. I need help. And that's what we'd encourage you is, hey, get help with these strategies. Yes, you can try to do it on your own. And if that's you, go for it. I hope these videos can be as helpful as possible. We've got plenty of content here to try to help educate you as much as possible. But even with that, we still have people who have watched hundreds of videos. We've got, I think, 200, 300 videos at this point, and we've had people watching it from the very beginning, and they still come to us saying, hey, we need help. And so if that is you, if you are looking for this type of planning and specific help, then you can reach out to us and schedule a 15-minute call, and we'd be glad to explore with you to see if we could be a good fit to serve you, see what your main concerns are. And so you can do so in the description below. I always want to make it very clear with this that, hey, we do try to take every call that comes into us to make sure that we can make sure people are set up for success. Although we don't have the capacity to bring on everyone as a client at this point, our goal is to be the best, not the biggest, is something we always say. We're never going to let our client experience suffer, even if we have hundreds of people knocking on our door that want to work with us, because we would rather impact those that we can fully versus just casting a wide net and maybe impacting tons of people, but giving very little impact to tons of people is not as valuable as really going deep into the specific people. So that's our approach. Again, we do have the YouTube, so we can cast a wide net to help as many people as possible because of the value of the technology. It allows us to do that efficiently. But as far as our hands-on approach, we want to do that very carefully. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the next one.